Hey, it's Mike Monday here, and this is the second time I'm doing this because I did the whole presentation that I prepared for you, and then for some reason it didn't look like it was working. This time it's telling me I'm actually live. It said live at the top last time, but anyway. Today we're going to talk about music theory. Yay! But before that, let me know what your number one obstacle holding you back in your creative life, in your creative career, in or out of the studio is in the comments, or if you're a lurker or want to remain anonymous, do it, send me a Facebook message. I'm going to stop asking people to tell me that soon because I'm getting loads and loads of questions. I've got plenty to get on with, so this is your last opportunity to do that. And I got a question from somebody, and I'm sorry I forgot to write in my mind map here who, when they said their number one obstacle was music theory and phrase transitions. Now, by any measure, I've been lucky enough to have a very enviable musical education. But what I have taken from oh, it's Johnny, that was right, Johnny Diaz. Well, Johnny, don't get too excited because I'm probably not going to answer it in the way that you're hoping. But anyway, hopefully this will be helpful anyway. So, yes, I had an enviable musical education. I did music at school. I started piano at the age of 7, then learned the bassoon, and then moved on to did the saxophone as well. Singing lessons. I had a music scholarship to my school. I went to Oxford University to study a music degree. The reason I'm telling you this isn't to show off. I'm just letting you know about my musical education, so you'll see that I kind of vaguely know what I'm talking about. So yes, went to Oxford University, was a choral scholar there, sang in the choir, did the whole thing. I mean, I was in the National Youth Orchestra on the double bassoon in Britain. So yeah, I've pretty much done it in terms of musical education. And my music degree was incredibly academic. It was the history of music, but also there was harmony and counterpoint. One of the, well, a few of the exams actually, you actually had to sit in a room, like a normal exam room, and write music with just by using your head. You didn't have a piano or anything. So it was pretty full on. But what I took from that was unusual, I think, to say the least. You see, my mum always said to me, learn the rules so you can break them. Makes sense, right? But there is a problem with this, that if you're not careful, the rules can become a prison. It's very hard to break out of if you want to practice. So if you're learning music theory, if you want to do music practice, sometimes those rules can trip you up somewhat. You see, as I said, I had that musical education, which I'm immensely grateful for. Don't get me wrong. You know, it was wonderful in many ways. But as a result of that, when I started actually making music, composing music after my university, I actually felt very less than confident as a music composer. I never felt particularly confident. And bear in mind, I'd never produced music before. I didn't do that at university, I didn't do that at school. The only first time I ever tried producing music was after university. And I thought, well, I'm going to try and learn this differently. I'm not going to be taught anything. I'm simply going to figure it out for myself. I'm going to bash my head against the equipment, and it was really, really hard when I started back in 1994. You know, it was all different bits of equipment. I mean, just working out how to plug the stuff together was like a mountain to climb. So it was really, really difficult. Most of the bits of equipment, you know, had screens the size of my watch, and it was absurdly hard. So I had to figure it out. And eventually, over the 17 years, by the end, I felt very confident as a music producer. Way more. Like I always felt a much better music producer than I did a music composer. Now, isn't that weird? And this is one of the reasons that I don't do traditional music theory lessons. I don't offer them. I don't do music production lessons. One of the reasons being that there's loads of places out there already that do that. You know, there is an absolute wealth of information out there already. I don't think I need to add to it. There are other people who are much more qualified than me, I believe. And the second reason is that I'm not 100% sure they help. I'm sure that I can't help, that's not the best way I can help, but I'm not sure that they help at all, always. Now, let me explain why. And this is where these strange scrawlings come in. Now, if I get a little bit confused, it's because everything's backwards. So I've had to draw everything backwards. So it's a little bit of a mind melt for me to do this properly. But I'll try my best. So bear with me. Okay. So this is how we learn anything. This is being a beginner, and this is mastery. Okay. So the first thing we learn is where we start off with is that we don't know what we don't know. So before you knew anything about music production, you just didn't know anything about it. So you just started and you didn't know what you didn't know. You're all excited because you don't know what you don't know, so you're just like, blah, you're just doing it, right? Then you kind of start to learn more and you realise what you don't know. So you actually start to know what you don't know. And this is what I call the trough of despair, that point at which you realise just how much there is to learn and just how little you know of it. Okay, now I would argue that in terms of music composition and music theory, this is where I start. Despite all of the training I got, all I ever seemed to learn was how much I didn't know and how bad I was. Okay, big obstacle. Oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. And the more information I got, the more I realised I didn't know. Okay. Anyway, hopefully you can move past this stage to this, which is kind of getting towards kind of expertise, where you know what you know. You're consciously applying what you know, so you know what you know. And then eventually, with enough time and practice, you get to this stage, which is approaching mastery. I don't think you can ever truly achieve mastery, but approaching mastery, which is where you don't know what you know. So you're just automatically doing the stuff without knowing what it is that you're doing, okay? And this is the ideal, this is where we all want to get. It's, you just it's just coming out of you, right? Now, in terms of music composition, as I said, this is where I got stuck, at least mentally. Maybe I was here, I don't know, but I felt I was there, okay? But in music production, so, all that stuff like compression and EQ and, I don't know, just producing music, all that technical stuff. Because I just figured it out without any lessons, I didn't read a book, I didn't do anything, and I'm sure I made loads of mistakes as a result. I jumped straight from there to there, and it took time. It may well have taken the same amount of time to go around this way. But the benefit of this is that I didn't get stuck at any of these other stages. I ended up, literally if I was to do a music production tutorial, it would consist of listen, twiddle knobs until it sounds good. That is literally what I did for 17 years. And that meant I got here. So I never knew what I knew. I just did it, and eventually I just kind of ended up doing it. I internalized it without all of this conscious theory bit. Okay? So why I don't offer tips in terms of music composition and theory, at least in the way that other people do. I do it in a kind of slightly different way, and I don't do that kind of training, is because I feel that I was always here. I feel that there's plenty of other people who know way more than me. I know what I don't know, okay? So I don't feel qualified, even though I probably am, right? And that's what held me back in my music, okay? And differently, but the reason I don't offer tips for music production, so often people will write comments and say, "Oh, just give us the Mike Monday secrets." I'm like, it's because I don't know. I don't know what I knew. I just kind of did it because of the way that I learnt it. Being taught is not the only way of learning. In fact, if you are taught, you are not learning. You are only ever learning when you're practicing. You see, the problem might not be that you don't know music theory. It might be that you're approaching your music practice in an unhelpful way. Now, let me say this, though. I am not saying necessarily that if you are excited and interested and curious in music theory and you're really excited by it, that it's a bad thing to do. I would never say that. Because that excitement and curiosity and motivation will carry you through this whole circle. But if you are not excited, if you're not curious, then don't think you have to learn the theory in order to make great music. I mean, if you think about rock and roll, how many chords are there? There's essentially 3, and I've lost count of the number of amazing singer-songwriters who were like literally kind of legends, never had a music lesson, never read music. They figured it out. They don't know what they know. So don't assume you have to understand the theory in order to make great music. If you want to learn the theory, if you think it's something that you're really excited about, go ahead. Absolutely great. It's never a bad thing to do if you're that kind of person, okay? But you can do what I did with music production. And, you know, if it doesn't sound good and you don't know why it doesn't sound good, right? The only solution to that isn't to learn the theory of why it doesn't sound good and then have to apply the theory. The other solution to that is just try something else until something does sound good, okay? Because that's essentially what I did with the music production part. So one of the things that I think trips people up is not accepting where they are now. You see, we all have this idea of the kind of music we want to make, and we're not the music producer that can make that music. But in order to become that music producer, you need to accept that you are not that music producer and finish anyway. Because when you finish stuff that you know isn't good enough, you have it when you go, right, that is it, I'm done, I'm just going, that's finished. You instantly have a different relationship to that music. It's something that you can learn from in a way that would never happen if you didn't finish it. So accepting that I can't, what was the phrasing? You know, I don't know enough about phrase transitions. And by the way, after all of my education of music, I don't even know what phrase transitions means. But I don't know whether I already said that. But anyway, if you I've lost my thread. Yes, if you think, oh, I don't know enough about phrase transitions, then letting not knowing enough about phrase transitions stop you from actually finishing music and thinking you have to go away and learn all this theory, I believe is a big mistake. Just keep trying things until you do something that sounds good. So, obviously completely lost my way a little bit there, which is a shame because the first time around I did it absolutely brilliantly, but no one saw it because it didn't work. But anyway, hopefully that's been helpful to you. Sorry for losing my way, and just let me know what's your number one obstacle that's holding you back in the comments. And if you're a lurker or you want to remain anonymous, send me a Facebook message. And if you know somebody who might benefit from this, then please share it with them or tag them in the comments or just plain tell them about it. As you can see, I need to practice more doing this, so I'm going to keep doing it until I get better at it and don't lose my way. I'm sure I missed a really important point then, but hey, that's the way it goes. Be happy with not being good enough. Accept you're not good enough. There you go. I've demonstrated what I was talking about in this Facebook Live. Just do it. What's the worst that could happen? You can make a complete idiot of yourself. Who cares? So, onwards and upwards, and I will see you very soon. Now go and finish something.